cloud. So welcome to the inaugural Friday Club Break Time with interview, where we'll be speaking to schools marketing and admissions experts about their schools, their careers and all things school marketing. Delighted to say that our first ever Break Time with guest is Lucy Barnwell, Director of Development and Marketing at Manchester High School for Girls. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on, so thank you.
Thank you so much for supporting what we're trying to do here at the Friday Club. So we really want to share marketing and admissions advice and expertise with all of our colleagues in UK independent schools and international schools across the globe. So great to have you here with us. Before we do talk about Manchester High School for Girls, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about you and your career, specifically your experiences within the school's marketing space.
Well, it was 2010 why I applied for a role at Mount St Mary's in North East Derbyshire and became their marketing manager. And I sort of learned the trade a bit my first 2 years there. And then I saw a role of head of marketing missions in Abbotsholme School in Staffordshire, moved over there and really sort of cut my teeth on it, looking at mystery shops, looking at sort of marketing strategy, looking at growing numbers and developing the customer journey. This was, although I've done customer journey all my life, I didn't realise it because my previous career is fundraising. Really developed it within the admissions process at Abbotsholme, and it was a really fun place to work. I'm a bit of a country girl, so loved the horses and the sheep, and that was just amazing to be able to do that and engage people in the surrounding area with the school and what it stood for. And then I moved over to Russell at Blackpool for nearly 5 years, doing their marketing missions and communications, and latterly their sort of fundraising. And really sort of grew my experience through international marketing and the sort of recruitment of international pupils, which was fantastic. And then after 10 years, wanted a little bit of a change, so moved into a day school, girls only school, because I was educated at a girls only school, which was really exciting, and do a bit of different with going back to my fundraising roots, doing a bit more development, which is just brilliant.
Great, so much experience then, so we're really lucky to have you here today. If we go into a bit more detail now about Manchester High School for Girls, what does an average week look like with your marketing hat on there?
Well, it's really interesting because at the moment we are organising the prospectus. So I'm in the middle of writing a marketing strategy to develop school messages into the future. And at the moment this week, Tuesday, yesterday and tomorrow, we have prospectus photos, and I'm currently writing new content for the prospectus. I've only been 3.5 months, 4 months in the role, so I've been meeting new staff today as well, the heads of year 10 and year 11, to find out what they do. I am currently, organising the uniform pop-up shop this weekend. So organising the logistics for that over the weekend, making sure all the parents know where to go, signage, as well as working on strategic objectives, brand guidelines, and a variety of, obviously we're also doing a feasibility study for our fundraising potential as well. So sort of dipping in and out a huge variety of projects at the moment, which is just fantastic.
Just going to say, it sounds extremely varied.
Yes, and I love it. I love the variety. I have to say, that's what I love about schools marketing and independent schools. The variety is incredible.
So I know that your last role, Lucy, was in a more rural boarding setting that you've just said there. Do you think that those compare or contrast in any way, say with Manchester High School, which is obviously more urban?
Yeah, so there's definitely, where we are here, there's a huge competition in school places in a smaller area. So this is the biggest difference. It's interesting. So the competitiveness is in a much smaller area in a city. Whereas when I was working within the boarding sector, the competition was not so much so close to home, but spread across sort of the region and the UK. And that is one of the differences, that you do feel this hub of competitiveness around you. Even though I'm a big believer of not looking at competitors and play to your strengths and do what you do best, I'm very much more aware of it being in the city with lots of really good schools around us as well, to what I've experienced in the past 10 years. So that's certainly the one difference. The pupils are all the same. They're all amazing. They're just so engaging, so confident, and actually with the prospectus photos I've been doing, I had a really good chance to speak to them this week, and I will tomorrow. And that's the wonderful thing, and why I love working in the sector. The pupils are incredible.
That you get lots of contact time with pupils?
Not so much so far, because of obviously the pandemic and COVID we've been going through, and we have to be very careful. In my last role, obviously over 5 years, and the last two roles especially so, and with boarding, with being more 24/7, because parents don't see their children when they send them thousands of miles away, especially, there's certainly a more sort of culture of 24/7 for sure, but parents still have sort of, concerns for their children, whether they're just 5 miles away or 5,000 miles away. So it's just a different sort of concern, probably a lot of the time, within the two different types of schools.
That's a really interesting view into the worlds of both a rural and an urban situation. Do you think that impacts on the types of strategies that you implement at the school?
Yeah, no, very much so. So your messaging has to be really sharp. That's exactly what I've noticed. And differentiation is really, really important. And that's what I'm working on at the moment. That is something that, schools are in close proximity, and parents have this choice really on their doorstep. Your customer journey, your dealings with parents, your messaging has to be so sharp, and that is the one difference that I have seen from working within this school in the last 3.5 months. That's really important.
Absolutely. So you've got really specific expertise within the customer journey element of schools admissions, haven't you?
Yeah, now it's something I'm very passionate about, and I think my poor husband gets a little bit, bored about it. But customer journey is really, really central for me. Customer service, customer experience is something that I think I rattled on about now in schools really since about 2012 actually. And the reason I rattle on about it is because in the last 2 schools, I've seen, if you implement a really good customer journey, you see business growth, and that is why I am so behind it. When you hear Richard Branson talk about the fact that when he brought in Virgin Atlantic, other airlines had hundreds of airplanes, and he had a few, but they're not here now, and he is, because of purely, he says, customer service. I am a firm advocate for this. So if you have a good customer journey, you look after the customer, you look after the parents, look after the donors as well. They have a different donor journey. That is when you receive a really positive outcome to the work that you put in, and you create great relationships and build good relationships.
And I can tell that you're really passionate about it. What do you think, Lucy, is the ideal customer relationship with both, say, a parent and a donor for an independent school?
It is the one word that I probably bang on about all the time. It's listening. So, and that's not just in independent schools, that is in any sector. This is totally transferable, Sophie. So you can literally, I've been a customer, and we all work hard. We all want to spend our money in a way that we feel is valued. And so when we are dealing with a customer, when we are the customer, we want to make them feel how we would want to be feel in that process. That's hugely important. And so that's how I think, I want to be listened to, I want to be helped. And it's something that I feel is really important, especially when we're in a sector which is basically a luxury product. You don't have to buy this if you don't want to. You can get it for free down the road, and so if that is the case, we have to work so much harder. We really have to roll out the red carpet every single time. We have to do the follow-up. If you're not following up after every inquiry, every touch point of the customer, you might as well just put up a sign and say, don't bother, So if you're not doing that because you don't feel that it's important to get that customer the worth £13,000 a year for a day place, £35,000 for a boarding place, then why are you in this business, in my opinion?
Okay, yeah, and I can really hear how passionate you are. So it's really, really refreshing to hear and really interesting to talk about. If we've got any schools listening that are thinking about, oh, okay, that's really interesting, how could we implement a stronger customer journey? What would your tips be there, Lucy?
Think of the customer first. Literally put your head in their mindset. You really have to have empathy with this. And say, what would the customer want? Every time the customer, the organization that is customer centric, that every single thing they do and think is about how the customer react, what would the customer want? That is how it is. So when I was looking at the admissions process, our visits weren't really tailored around the customer. They were tailored around sort of lesson time, or making sure that the let's say the pupils didn't miss that, this, that, the other, or they didn't have it wasn't the right timings basically for just a visit. We only had set times, for instance. So that's not very customer centric. Customers can't always come when we want them to come. It's about when they're available. So we made these sort of these visits really sort of welcoming for the customer. So we brought them in, with an email saying, here is your visit plan, this is what to expect, can we change it, is there anything you'd like to see, and then we gave them an email saying, looking forward to seeing you, you will have a car parking sign outside, here's where you go to, little things like that. And then we had the sign for their name, there's little chalkboard for their name, and you should see the children's faces light up when they saw their name. It was just amazing. And then a 15-minute icebreaker, because so many parents are first-time buyers, they haven't got a clue about any of this. It is the most terrifying prospect. They probably don't think they even fit in there, but they want to do the best for their child. So giving that 15 minutes where a parent might suddenly break down in tears because their child is being bullied and they couldn't do that on the phone, or to talk about their needs before popping them on an hour's and a half's worth of visit, talking and information overload, and then sitting down after that over lunch. There's something wonderful about, I call it breaking of bread in a sense, when everyone talks around a table in a sort of this communal feeling, obviously pre-COVID, and talks about what they've seen, and these little things really do make a whole world of difference.
Absolutely. It sounds as though getting to a family's personal why would they send their child to that school is really important for you.
Yeah, and the listening is key. I have seen people not listen, and if you don't active listen, so in other words, you are listening without thinking about a response, you're just purely listening to their needs, their emotions, you can usually get to the nub of the problem quicker, because we are all time poor. And you can help them faster and make them feel more welcome and warm and comfortable faster. So if I could say two things, listen and follow up.
Really interesting, thank you. Do you think anything's changed in the customer journey for you at Manchester High School for Girls in relation to COVID? And we're doing more virtual.
This is it. It's all about virtual and digital. We put on this fantastic program of insight into talks for our sixth formers and for the local community as well. Who want to come on in, and they're basically to allow students to sort of explore different career pathways. So we've had a third sector one recently. We had former pupils who talked about the different stages of the career. So we had someone on entry level, someone in middle management, and someone chief executive level, and talking about charities and what to do and how to get there. And they've been really successful virtually, and we are not going to go back to face-to-face for these, and including in conversation with some of our some really good alumni. We're going to keep on with the digital approach, so we will run a hybrid program going forward of both face-to-face and digital events, which allows us to reach more people and target people and our local community and formers in the local area as well, to access these talks so they can get a bit of participation and support with their future programs and plans too.
Absolutely. I think with the alumni side, that alumni can be scattered across all corners of the earth, really. Do you think that you've had more engagement with your alumni because of the digital?
Hugely so. That's one thing we've noticed, because now we stream more of it. We record everything as much as we can. If some people obviously don't wish to be recorded, and then we pop them onto our YouTube channel, and then people can see them at their leisure. As I said, we're all quite, time poor. So to be able to watch a lecture at 10 o'clock at night, let's say, if you have young children, you put them to bed, or you've done your work, or worked them on a weekend, so you don't feel you've missed anything, because you can't get to them, because you don't live in a proximity of 30 miles, or you're abroad, as you rightly say. You can then, everything's more accessible now, and not every event works like that. We know our lunches and some of our donor events would never work that way. But it's a matter of finding those ones that really do reach those larger audiences.
So you mentioned YouTube there. Is YouTube one of your key media accounts that you'd be using?
Well, it will be. I'm actually in the middle of creating a social media strategy. And so, yes, it's all about video, more so than imagery. Our key accounts really are still Facebook and Instagram. So Instagram for our sort of younger parents, they love Instagram, and Facebook for our sort of more senior parents. So those are our core places, and we do a lot of advertising on there too for our events. So but going forward, we are working on digital strategy for the year in terms of our advertising and across our social media. So we will be producing more videos over the next 3-4 months to engage people on our YouTube channel.
It's interesting there to me as well that you've said you've noticed that older parents might use Facebook more than Instagram, and conversely for younger parents. When did you spot that?
Well, actually, I'm not an Instagram user personally, I have to say, Sophie. So I have an amazing team that do use Instagram. And yeah, it's one of my colleagues who is probably about 10 years younger than me, who is a real Instagram follower. And so listening to her talking about this and looking at it myself, you can see that is, looking at the Instagram sort of statistics, that is the demographic. So we targeted our prep school open events on Instagram, as well as some PPC as well, digital advertising, and we did see an uplift coming through the sort of Instagram accounts, and people saying they've seen it on that sort of platform. So that's really interesting, and it's something we're going to continue with into the next academic year.
It's really interesting. It's so insightful, I think, when you can get a bit of data like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So just before I let you get back to your day job then, Lucy, I know you're really busy, especially at this time of year. Can I just ask you how you see marketing and admissions coming to life in the next academic year at your school?
I think that there's going to be hopefully I'll have written a strategy by the end of summer, which we will roll out with really core messages that will differentiate ourselves positively in the local area. We will be looking at sort of increasing our sort of digital presence, that's certainly for sure. We are looking at reducing billboard, what they call out-of-home advertising, because more and more people are working remotely now, so aren't traveling into the city. So there is going to be a shift in terms of our sort of print advertising. We're moving through to digital because everyone is on their phones. That's not to say we won't be looking at lifestyle magazines, which still back up our digital planning as well. And we are looking at sort of creating additional brochures to our prospectus to support some of our new key differentiators. I'll leave it at that for the moment. Watch this space.
There's a lot in there then already.
Yes. And we will be having a new website by the end of the year as well.
Okay, so you're certainly not going to be slowing down over the next 6 months.
No, absolutely. And this is all the easy part. This is just all the organisation. It's the doing next year, which I much prefer, actually, which is the fun part.
Brilliant. So one thing that we always like to ask our guests is, what do you enjoy most about your job working in schools marketing?
I'm really passionate about this sector, Sophie. It is really sad when you see schools close. And I love working in this sector because I benefited it from myself. I was at school from 4 to 18 in an all-girls school called Lewiston in Dorset. And I loved my school days. I was very unconfident as a child, and Lewiston really brought it out of me. And I can honestly say this is the most amazing sector. giving huge opportunities to students. And that's what I can see and I love. I think you can't go wrong if you have the best education, the best healthcare systems, basically. And I just want it to thrive and build and develop and continue, you know, this amazing education that we provide, this all-round education that schools provide. So that's what I love. And I just think the students are amazing. They're so engaging and such a lot of fun to talk to, but regarding their ambitions and their dreams and just the day-to-day life. That's what makes it truly wonderful. It really does.
I can really hear again how passionate you are about your role in the students and the school itself. I thank you, Lucy. You have been an absolutely brilliant first guest for us at the Friday Club here. We're really grateful, really lucky to have you as an expert member.
Thank you.
I hope we can work together on a future episode.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful. I think this is the most wonderful sector and we need to do all we can. Everyone within it needs to do everything we can to keep it going and developing it over the next 10, 20 years. So anything I can do to help, I will always do that.
Best words to leave with there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.